Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace when we go live or upload another video. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Gilgo Beach, Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann. There was no link as of now found between Rex Heuermann and the missing South Carolina woman, Julia Bean. We're going to get into the full conversation here with you guys tonight. We're going to do it live and interactive as we always do. Ed, how you doing tonight? Welcome home. You've been home for a week. Are you well rested? Are you ready to go?
Oh yeah, it's good to be back in the USA. I tell you, nothing gives you better perspective of how good we have it here in the United States and how lucky we are to be born here and living in here than to go abroad to some of the places that I go to that, trust me, are not on people's bucket list to go see. And then you realize, as I said, how lucky we are to be here.
How is the pizza over there, Ed? You told me you had a pizza party. Can you talk just a little about the pizza before we get into the meat and potatoes of this tonight?
Well, it was something close to pizza. I guess it was a Kurdish version of pizza, but it wasn't bad for what it was, right. But it wasn't pizza.
Yeah, they tried to make it as homey as possible.
The crust was good. Trust me, the crust was good, but everything else.
So, as we were talking about earlier, Julia Bean, missing since 2017. She went missing June 1st of 2017. She was going to get her nails done. Her daughter saw her with a man who pulled up in a Chevy Avalanche, and that was the last time she was seen alive. There's been about 8 days of discussion and probably maybe more on the South Carolina side. The authorities over down in Sumter County, the sheriff's department, made a statement today that they found no link between Rex Heuermann and Julia Bean. But what I found kind of interesting is that, she's never been found. So what were they actually matching up? And we'll get into that in a few with you, because this is Friday, right? Friday is Forensic Friday for us. So I want to have a discussion, because I'm sure a lot of people in the audience have questions about this case and how they were able to match it up. But let's say hello. There's a couple of people. The warehouse manager where I work is in the chat. Mark, good to see you, Mark. Happy Friday night. We made it to another weekend. Hectic week, busy days, but we made it to Friday. So welcome, Mark. Thank you for joining. Ed, any thoughts on that? Before I show this little media that we're going to play, how do they come up with this, that there's no link without actually having any remains or anything?
Yes, they can do a lot of searches, then touch base with the Suffolk County Task Force and get the information about credit card usage, phone tracking, phone cells, see if there's any links between his cell phone rather, and her cell phone, any pings of his phone in the immediate area, any tracking along those lines, and things of that nature. And the dates, they could look at the dates, and maybe the task force can figure out if he was in fact in New York at those dates that the daughter says that she believes she saw him, things like that.
So yeah, there's ways for them to forensically look at his communication or her communication. I'm sure that the authorities down in Sumter County have some type of investigation that they did on this thing. Let's play this little piece from Newsday, because it's short and it gets right to the point. So this is from Newsday TV from today.
Authorities in South Carolina say they found no link between accused Gilgo serial killer Rex Heuermann and a woman reported missing in that state in 2017. That woman's name, by the way, is Julia Bean.
As all investigators would, they will start right at the epicenter and move outward, beginning with the fact that this is hearsay, second and third hand information. Our investigators have contacted a number of people, but as of today, we are still unable to make a connection between Mrs. Bean or Miss Bean and Heuermann.
Now, Bean's daughter said she thought she saw Heuermann with her mother before she disappeared. The sheriff's department says it hopes for swift resolution in this case for everyone involved.
The hearts of the law enforcement community here in Sumter, South Carolina, the Sumter Sheriff's Office, are with the families there in Long Island, New York area, and our colleagues in law enforcement there.
Heuermann, who is from Massapequa Park, has pleaded not guilty in the killings of 3 women and is being held without bail.
So there you go, Ed. They really didn't say much as it pertains to this in the case. You know, thoughts and prayers, and you know, that was really just a very, you know, she's just like scathed on the outside of it. Was a pretty much politically correct statement. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know. Every time I look at that, and I get a chuckle because he's like the stereotypical Southern gentleman wearing the bow tie. The only thing he was missing was the seersucker suit and the hat. But you know, the presentation, you know, that he gave was succinct and to the point.
Yeah, I'll say. But again, there's a great deal of information on our end that they could backtrack on. Again, his movements on June 1st of 2017 via cell phone, maybe by computer. He's down there. He's got properties. We saw that drone footage and aerial footage and footage from on the ground when they took the 2012 avalanche from. Wait a minute, it was 2002. Let me get my years right. They took the avalanche, the older avalanche that he sold to his brother, from that property. And then, you know, these same authorities, the Sumter County Sheriff's Office, were working together with the task force to execute that search warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that this case was on their mind. Do we look into, like, now he had the cheek swab, his DNA is collected, but they have nothing on their end over there unless he went into her home or he had some other contact with her. But again, we're talking about 2017 to 2023.
Yeah, the best bet they're going to have is to track him electronically. The digital forensics, the cell phones, the pings, any type of text, emails, communications between him and this missing woman in South Carolina. And it doesn't appear that they found any such. Plus, if the task force in New York established that his whereabouts on that date and it wasn't South Carolina, that's it. Game over.
Right. Yeah. So it's unfortunate. But again, there's a lot of information circulating, and I've seen for the last 8 days quite a number of news outlets. News Nation has had some coverage. There's a friend of Julia. Her name is Heidi Kobus. She went on with News Nation, but she said some really interesting things. And by a show of hands in the chat, how many of you guys have seen that interview? I believe, yeah, she was with Banfield. But she did provide quite a bit of information through Julia's daughter, Cameron. She stated that she was picked up or drove up to her location in a Chevy Avalanche with, she said, 100%. She feels, after seeing his arrest and seeing his photo, this was the man who her mom was last seen with. So a lot of people in the chat, Ed, are saying it seems credible. They've seen it. If you haven't seen this interview, put a 2 in the chat, because I'm curious of how many people haven't seen this interview. It seems like a lot of you guys have. But yeah, we're going to play it. We're going to take a listen to it. And let's listen to what Heidi has to say. It's an interesting interview. And if I can get it to play, there it is. Let's let it roll.
Being the Long Island Gilgo Beach serial killing suspect, right? And then today we might need a new name. Because there is a woman in South Carolina who says, I know that face. I saw that face. It was on my graduation night. It was the last face I saw with my mother before I never saw her again. Julia Bean disappeared June 2017 from Sumter, South Carolina, about 100 miles from Chester County, where, wouldn't you know it, Rex Heuermann has a property. Her daughter swears 100% that the last face she saw with her mother was the guy who drove them to the nail salon, made all sorts of promises of, I've got lake houses and you and your friends can use them anytime you want, and I'm going to marry your mother. And then she never saw the mother again. So this is big. Julia Bean's dear friend Heidi Kovitz is speaking on her behalf, and she is kind enough to join me now for her first exclusive national interview.
Hey, before I let the rest of this play, just so you know, in the chat, so you guys don't go crazy over this, there's a delay in the broadcast, I guess, on the connection, and when when Heidi starts asking, when Banfield starts asking Heidi questions, it's like a delay. So there's a little bit of a snafu in the beginning. So just bear with it. It's not us. It's just that's on this show.
Heidi, thank you so much for being with us. How certain is Julia's daughter that Rex Heuermann is the man who was last seen with her mom?
She's certain. It's him. It's him. She recognized him.
Yeah, well, sorry, we have a big delay between us. My apologies. What happened when Julia's daughter made that recognition, and Rex Heuermann's face was splashed all over the news? What was the next step for not just Julia's daughter, but you as well?
It was awful. It's like it started the pain all over again. You know, you would think that you get some sort of but it started the pain all over again. And this pain was much worse. Now you know for sure that something awful happened to this girl's mother, my friend, and it's awful. It's awful. And
there was one detail that I thought was really fascinating, Heidi, and that was that Julia's daughter not only believes she saw Rex Heuermann and recognizes him from the pictures, but she also says that it was a Chevy Avalanche in which this man brought her to the nail salon. This was her graduation evening. Have you all taken that information to the authorities? And if so, what's been the reaction?
So it was the night before graduation, and, Cam was all excited, and Julie was meeting Cam to get their nails done. And, Julie pulled up in that truck, and, the Rex Heuermann started to tell Cameron that he had a couple lake houses and a boat, and like you said, her and her friends could borrow it for graduation, and he was going to take her to a concert, and he loved her mom and was going to marry her. And when Cam gave me that information, she was freaked. She was really we live in South Carolina. We don't pay attention to what's going on in New York. And, this was not a high profile case. I was cleaning my house and heard it. And when I saw the victims come across the screen, I knew, that's what happened to Julie, And so I started calling the police right away. And I didn't feel like I was being heard or taken serious. And I couldn't sleep.
So you have spoken with the Sumter County Sheriff's Office, right? I think Detective Charles Bonner at the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. Have you given a full report and the details of that Chevy Avalanche and Julia's daughter Cameron's firsthand, witness account?
Yes, I did. I sure did. I drove all the way to Sumter to do it. Yeah, I live 2 hours from Sumter, but I was like, you're going to listen to me. And I did it on a Sunday morning, and 9:00 in the morning, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, swollen eyes, crying for days, no sleep. Somebody's going to listen to me. Julie didn't leave her kids. She didn't walk away. She was taken. She wouldn't leave her kids. She wouldn't walk away. She was taken. And I just feel like it's really important that.
Did Cameron, her daughter, ever see Rex Heuermann again after that last sighting at the hair salon? The nail salon?
Never heard a peep, nothing. But
so he disappeared along with the mother.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty specific. What do you think happened to Julia? Where do you think she is?
We as adults can kind of put two and two together, but there is still a slim chance that she could be alive, and she could possibly be on that property, in that house. There could be other women in there. I don't understand why we're not going in there, but you got to leave it to the police to do what they got to do. But I hope to God she's not in that house. This information came out over a week ago. Like, she's been missing since 2017. There's a possibility she's still alive. And, I really want to speak for these kids, Cameron, Carson, and Kaylee. They really miss their mom. They really love her. And they want her to know that, Kaylee, the youngest, she's a sophomore in Texas State College. Carson is fulfilling his dreams. He's a Marine. Cam, she's the tough one. She's the one that picked up all the pieces when Julie went missing. And she's a great mom. She's got 3 little kids. Julie would be a grandma with her little old self. We just want to bring Julie home. And these are Cam's words. Whether it's a tooth, whether it's a bone, whatever it is, she just wants a piece of her mom, something. We just want Julie home. Please, please.
Heidi Kovis, I'm so thankful that you had the wherewithal to do what you did, take that information to the authorities, and I'm thankful that you shared the story with us tonight.
So there you have it, Ed. A lot of questions. I want to highlight this question because people were volleying stuff at you during the course of this. Carly is a member, and she's also very sharp. She picks up on the finer points. So she says there's so many questions. Did the daughter give Rex Heuermann's description to law enforcement in the beginning? I'm actually adding some stuff on because I'm actually thinking how she's thinking. Was this description given to the Sumter County Sheriff's Office and the local police department? And also, was Julia a sex worker? Because a lot of this stuff doesn't fit Rex Heuermann's method of operation. He liked smaller, petite women. All of his victims, the Gilgo 4, were all small in size. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here. And he wasn't really the dating kind. He wanted to pick people up and either bring them and have command and control at the home. This just didn't seem like part of his MO. But then you look at Nikki Brass. She made those statements that he went and met her in Port Jeff and things like that.
Yeah, but still, there's a lot of other questions too. The daughter is making these statements. Well, is this the first time she met him? And then he's telling her, I'm going to marry your mother, and she's never seen this guy before or heard of this guy before, it seems like, if you were going to say something like that to a daughter, that there would have been a long time relationship.
Right. And she handed 2 tickets to her graduation to both of them. Like, I remember when my kids were graduating, you were only able to get a couple of tickets or whatever the case may be. You give it to someone who you don't know. Like, that was very good that you brought that up, Ed, because if this is someone that just shows up out of nowhere, telling you that he's going to marry your mother, and you're like, what? Who are you? Yeah,
exactly. The lake house and boats and all this other stuff. It doesn't seem to fit our guy's MO.
Right. So many strange things, and we don't have access to the case file. But again, the local PD over there is going to look back to the early reports and what was there. This graphic, was this was this strong description, talking about a truck, talking about, you know, big strapping guy, and so forth. But that's unknown to us at this time. But what we do know is that they came back and said there's no connection.
Right. They did say that, and they did say they were seeking help from the FBI.
Right.
You know, that's what I love about forensics. All right. Forensics is science. It either is or isn't something. Okay. It's either, you know, eyewitness testimony, hearing testimony is not reliable. Okay. A lot of things impact how we see things and how we interpret things and how we hear things, and a lot of different factors, you know, where you grew up, your education, your religion, all these different things, environmental factors, you know, where you work, what you work at, what your profession is, all these things will impact how you interpret things. I could show you study after study. I can put videos up here. I can even put a paragraph, a couple sentences, and read it to you, let you read it to yourself, and then take it off the screen and ask you how many eyes were in that statement. And more times than not, my students always get it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Because everybody thinks their brain functions a certain way, but it really doesn't. Okay. Your brain can only intake so much information before it starts to shut down on you and narrow down the information that you're receiving. All right. Because it's receiving information overload, especially in stressful situations. Okay. You know, many of you might have heard for people that have been involved in gun battles or shootouts, especially law enforcement and the military. And they talk about this thing called tunnel vision. Well, it absolutely is true. You get tunnel vision because your peripheral vision will then narrow down to this narrow field, to the threat that is immediate to your life. And all that stuff that's going on the outside, you lose it. You don't retain that information.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not saying that, you know, she was under stress or something. I'm not saying that she's even wrong. All right. But I am saying it doesn't fit what we know.
And again, like you said, you know, sometimes eyewitnesses, like you said, can see several. You can interview 5, 6 different people, and they're all at the same location. They're going to give you different versions of what they saw. So yeah, Lieutenant Pete Pranzo saying Ed is correct. Yeah, 100%. Florida Pete says it's like an anxiety attack when you get that tunnel vision. Yeah, the world just closes in on you when you're under a very stressful situation. But yeah, you know, listen, nobody is picking on this story. What we're saying is that, you know, the authorities have the initial report from 2017 when Julia was reported missing, and the eyewitness accounts and testimony taken at the scene. Hopefully there was some good detective work and questions asked and questions answered by whoever these, you know, the daughter who saw mom. I'm sure the daughter was loud and clear about it. She was a senior in high school. So she was able to give her statement, I'm sure. But again, like I said, it doesn't fit the MO of Rex Heuermann, but he did do unverified, you know, according to this Nikki Brass and some other. Listen, we had that young girl, July 3rd, just a few short days before he was collared, said that he came out of the bush in a park in Massapequa and scared the hell out of her. And so he scared her so much and asked creepy stuff. He saw a picture of her and her boyfriend on the phone, and he was like, oh, you know, like asking really weird things. She made a phone call and had someone come and pick her up. And we heard the same thing from the sex worker, Nikki Brass. She said, I got a bad vibe from this guy. And nobody's here to judge whether her story is true or not. But she's telling that story. And if in fact this guy had that kind of demeanor, I'm sure, you know, he expressed it loud and clear here in South Carolina. There's other investigations going on across the country as well.
Now, she was the last family member to see her mother alive. Okay. Correct. So she'd be one of the principal people to not interrogate, but interview.
Yeah.
At the time that the report of the missing persons goes in, right? So now it would be interesting to see if she had these same details that we're hearing now given back then when she reported her mother missing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you see if the statements are consistent.
Imagine. Yep. Hey, the Suffolk County Sheriff, Sheriff Toulon, he has his task force in the jail that are interviewing sex workers, and they came across several of the girls that had encounters with Heuermann. It was just a couple. That was his exact words, a couple. So I'm assuming two. Said he had a violent and aggressive attitude when they were with him, or when they had, maybe phone conversations with him, or whatever the case may be. I thought it was an interesting listen. And again, it's on News Nation. I know we're stuck on that, but I fast forwarded it to when the sheriff comes on. So I want to play this for the audience because, again, he was being kind and sweet in South Carolina, right? I'm going to marry your mom. You can use my properties. I've got swimming pools. I've got, like he was being Mr. Charming. And now we have current interviews here that say something different. So let's take a listen to it. And then we're going to come back and we're going to highlight and feature your hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon, your questions. So put those hashtags in the comment section when we come back, and we'll take your questions. And we have a special guest who's going to grace us with his presence, because we're going to talk a little bit about the burlap wraps that Rex Heuermann used on his victims. He's alleged, of course, innocent until proven guilty. I don't want to get crucified for that one, Ed. So innocent until proven guilty, but we're going to talk a little bit about it, and we're going to get a little demonstration from our good friend, Retired Irish Detective, in a few. So hang out with us for the second half of the show. Let's take a listen to this. Sheriff Toulon.
Sex services. I want to bring in Sheriff Errol Toulon Jr., the Suffolk County Sheriff. He is leading the charge in this investigation. This is such a great investigative tactic, Sheriff. I'm very impressed that you've done this coordination with these different jails. How is it going? Did I characterize it right coming in? Is there more to the story I don't know?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. And we started our human trafficking unit in 2018, well before a task force was formed. And what we did was we were able to speak to our law enforcement partners and also media accounts to see how we can formulate questions of sex workers coming in our facility. In 2022, when the task force was created and we became a part of it, we started to learn more about a potential suspect. And once we had identified Mr. Heuermann, we were able to interview several sex workers, not only in our custody, but started to work with sex workers that were not in our custody, because not everyone is arrested, and see if any of them had any encounters with Mr. Heuermann.
Can you tell me what the word helpful means? Because the report is that 5 of the sex workers have given information about Rex Heuermann that's been helpful. 2 of them have said he was violent and aggressive with them. What other details do you have about their responses?
So, the women, and we've only interviewed 2 that have stated that they may have had an encounter with Mr. Heuermann. What we still have to do is vet their story, because, at this point in time, there could be many women that say they had an encounter with him, and we're looking at dates, times, locations, just to verify their story. And so it's very important for us to give this information to the task force as a whole, for anyone that may state that. So we're still vetting the story of the 2 women in our custody that had said they may have had an encounter with Mr. Heuermann.
And what about the other 3? Because 5 in total have been quote unquote helpful.
So the other 3 might have come through the task force from other means, not necessarily the anti-trafficking unit within the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office.
So let me ask you this. I want to kind of move from that to the other side of the investigation, and that is all of the material that was gleaned from Rex Heuermann's house.
I hate that she asks him this, because he knows nothing about this, Ed. And this is every time that she has this poor guy on, she asks him this same exact question. I'm just going to let everyone listen to how gentlemanly he handles this, but he's not in the field. He's at the jail. He's not.
Yeah, and he's leading the charge on this investigation.
He feels the need to do this every time. So, oh my God.
Can you tell me some of the things that came from that house that were helpful in this investigation?
You know, unfortunately, only because it's still an active investigation, I cannot talk about the items that were removed from his residence that may be part of a future investigation, which may help either this case or link him to, you know, other sex workers that may have been murdered. And so, you know, the task force as a whole is really just looking at everything that we all garner, whether it's the state police, the FBI, the district attorney's office, or even the Suffolk County Police Department, including the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, are putting together all types of evidence that we may be uncovering to see if they're linked to Mr. Heuermann, if they're linked to another person, or you know, any crimes that may have been committed in Las Vegas or South Carolina.
It's been about 6 weeks, I think just a little over 6 weeks since Heuermann was arrested. And at that time, 3 of the Gilgo Beach murders were being charged to him. A 4th is Maureen Brainerd Barnes. And the word is that it's likely he's the chief suspect in it, and that it's likely he's going to be charged in Maureen Brainerd Barnes' murder as well. Are we closer to seeing that happen?
You know, I think as the task force progresses, we're trying to make sure, as we did with the first 3 that we were able to charge Mr. Heuermann with, is that we have concrete evidence and we feel comfortable. You know, me as a sheriff and being part of this task force feels very confident that the 3 charges that Mr. Heuermann is currently faced with is that he is the person that committed those murders. And so we want to be very, very clear and concrete when we present this evidence to the courts that we have the correct person.
But that 4th one, is it getting close?
Oh God. All right, let's take this off. The reason I played it because I really enjoy listening to him, and I love the work that they're doing inside the jail. There's a female sergeant who's a commanding officer in charge of that human trafficking division, and they're interviewing sex workers that come in on a regular basis, and they're also looking at ones that have been lodged in that facility. But yeah, Ed.
Yeah, when she does this, it's like the Abbott and Costello routine. Who's on first? I don't know. Third base.
She gets the same answers. Yeah, it's like she asks the questions over and over again. Allison BD sees that you're laughing. Let's go into some of these questions. Gladys Epps says, DutyRon, could it be Rex's brother down in South Carolina? They look nothing alike. I'm not going to blast the brother's face all over the YouTubes, but he's out there. The brother, actually, you see him in a car, I think, and driving off when they did that search warrant. So you see the brother, he's out there. He doesn't look anything like Rex. But thank you for that question. Let's look at some of the starred messages because I don't like to stop the show. I highlight them. Vicky, member for 3 months. She says, "Hi everyone, happy Friday." Hey Vicky, happy Friday. Jakey Fives, member for 11 months. We both thank you kindly. Mark, my warehouse manager, he became a member. Wow. Excellent.
I used to work with a bunch of Zayas.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to check into that. Galen, I said thank you again. I'm thanking you again. Thank you for the $10 super chat. JC says, so proud to be a member of this channel / family and
hey,
learn
Ron?
from 2 of the best hosts.
Hey, Ron?
Yeah.
I did see a question I'd like to answer.
Okay, let's do it.
There was a question way back in the chat about CODIS. Here, it popped up again. Okay. So the question was, is it true that you can't enter a person's DNA into CODIS until they're convicted? Yes and no. You can take the CODIS from, say, Rex or our boy out in Idaho, and put their DNA into CODIS to check against the database. Okay. But to put it in the offender portion, in New York at least, and some other states, you have to have a conviction in order to put an identified DNA into the offender database. Right. Now, the unknown, you can compare the suspect's DNA to all the unknown CODIS DNA and all the known DNA. You just can't keep it there in the database until a conviction, at least for the state of New York.
Great question and fantastic answer. Jennifer Nobles from Bakersfield, California. She's in the house saying hello to Diane. Diane B., my neighbor across the street, great friend, saying hello back and forth. I love how everyone says hello to each other. Here's one from Angela. She's a Suffolk County fellow Long Islander. She said, hashtag Ed, hashtag Ron, hashtag Ed. Do you guys think that he is definitely connected? Because I feel his interview was very informative, and I think she's definitely telling the truth, but I do not think her friend is alive. You know, we could think all we want, and we can listen to her pleas, but really it's the evidence that will ultimately be used. If there is evidence that Rex Heuermann picked up, in fact, had a hand in picking up Julia Bean, then of course, yes. But it looks like they don't have enough to say, hey, this is somebody who could potentially be responsible for her going missing. If they had enough, then they would perhaps maybe make a statement or maybe enhance the investigation, but it doesn't look that way. And they said that they were going to call in the FBI. That means they're at a stalemate and they need outside resources. Ed?
Yeah, I agree. You know, some of the toughest cases are these missing person cases and also suicides. I can't tell you how many times I was contacted by a family member looking to hire me to review law enforcement's investigation of their loved one that the medical examiner's office had deemed the death a suicide. And I will not take those cases. I just won't take them because no good is going to come of it. And it's just like pulling a scab off a healing wound. And no matter how many times, like I got burnt on this once and I'll never do it again. I looked at the case for this woman and I looked at the investigation. I had the whole case file, went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I came to the conclusion that this was a professional, thorough investigation, and the medical examiner's findings of the cause and manner of death were spot on, and it was, in fact, a suicide. And when I told this to this grieving woman, she just couldn't accept it.
Yeah.
And, just started yelling at me. And I couldn't console her. And so I will never get involved in those cases again.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And again, you can never, people are looking for answers, and you can't just give answers to people if you don't have something to tell them, right? It's tough, Ed, and I get.
Yeah, but even when you do, in this case, I had the answer,
right,
but she didn't want to accept that answer.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we see that a lot in these cases. If you like, we'll go live and we'll say things and we'll talk about things that we know are facts as it pertains to investigative, investigative techniques or evidence collection and DNA. And if someone's got their mind set on something else, they get mad. And then they don't want to hear. Sometimes the truth kind of hurts people, and if you're not going to give them or spoon feed them what they want to hear, then you become the evil one. There's one you put up by Christina, Ed.
Can only the FBI get phone and computer info? No. As can be seen, many state and local law enforcement can go to a judge, get a court order, and submit that court order to cell phone providers, internet providers, and get the information that you were looking for here. It doesn't have to be it's not just the FBI.
Yeah. So D Banks comes in and says, what are we voting for? I missed it. I put in the chat. If you love Ed Wallace, put a 1 in the chat. And the chat lit up like a Christmas tree. It was Christmas in September.
Why are you doing that?
Because we love you, Ed. Yeah, I want to just get a consensus of how many people love you, and there's a lot of people here.
It reminds me of? It reminds me of the Goonies. I love you.
Popeye. found that funny too.
Yeah, okay.
He's in the background here. So there goes the number ones going crazy. Bruno 67, Michelina, Sereno, Karen, Tammy. Ed, I wanted to change gears a little bit because we did touch on the burlap. Now I'm probably not saying it right. So it's alleged that Rex Heuermann was a duck hunter.
Duck hunter, yeah.
Right. And, we talked about that boat theory. Doesn't seem probable that he would take a boat and, dispose of these human remains of his victims, all allegedly, right? But they were all wrapped in that burlap sack. And I think I asked you on a previous show, does this help to enhance or speed up decomposition? And I don't quite remember what your response was, but I wanted to revisit that with you, because when we see other cases like what we're talking about here tonight, Julia Bean, not recovered, not found, but if there were other cases across the United States where it involves this type of material, of course, you would be looking heavily at Rex Heuermann. But I wanted the audience to get an idea of, like, what is the benefit of this? Like, was this to shield from detection? Was it a combination of both, helping to enhance decomposition quickly? Can you talk about that?
Well, I think he just used whatever he had lying around, and he had this. It's used for duck hunting, to make blinds and to camouflage yourself when you're in those fields, in those marshy fields, hunting duck, or in a boat. You put the camouflage netting over the boat, and you hide underneath it, and so forth. Now, the material, it's porous. It absorbs liquid, and it breathes. It allows air to flow through. So if you wrap the body around in it, and you took the body and you threw the body in a marsh like that and just left it on the marsh, you didn't bury it, you just left it there. One, it's going to camouflage the body depending on the season you deposited the body. If the indigenous plant life is active and it's like spring through fall, and the foliage is there, then it's going to be camouflaged and hidden. But those swampy areas, you were there, the tide ebbs and flows. And so the water will come in, you'll have high tide, low tide, and the area will fill up with water. And then when the tide goes down, the area will drain. And this cycle keeps wetting that material and keeps that moisture on the body. And there's all kinds of decomposition that can be expedited, or some things, as we call them, graves wax, also known as adipocia, okay, where these white soapy substance starts, the skin starts to form into this because of the moisture.
Right.
And these bodies were badly decomped. The skin was really, really badly decomped. There was some adipocia. There were some signs of critter activity, and so forth.
Yeah. Well, that's an important thing to, put into perspective here, because a lot of people ask those questions about, why he would potentially use something like that. And, our good friend, Retired Irish Detective, he did a video on his channel, and we're going to have him join us because he has this same type of burlap material that he's going to show us here on this live stream. So, but before we put him on, I wanted you to also let our audience know what we got in the pipeline for next Friday. We have an exciting show set up. Do you want to talk about it, or do you want to wait?
No, we can talk about it. We're gonna hopefully all goes well. We'll have a Forensic Friday with some of our returning forensic experts. We're gonna have Dr. Murray Marks, forensic anthropologist. We're gonna have Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick, our DNA guru, and Dr. Larry Dobrin, the Dobie, is going to come on, our forensic dentist, and we're going to talk about the complications and the impact, and how they would work these bodies that had been out in the marsh like this for years, going through seasonal cycles and so forth, and how difficult the process is first to recover them, and second to try to identify them through DNA anthropological examination of the bones and the body, and also dentistry.
That's going to be a fascinating show. When we started talking about this, and we've been working on it for a day or so now, Ed got the Rolodex out and he started calling up his friends, getting them back on. These are returning guests on our show. But I think that's going to be an educational, fascinating live stream, because I'm going to ask each and every one of you who watch this replay or here in the live to send your questions to DutyRon.com for questions for that show next Friday night. Hopefully it all works out and we have it. We'll keep you guys posted. But Dr. Murray Marks, forensic anthropologist, Dr. Adobe, right? Dr. Dobrin, he is a forensic dentist. And with these remains, dentistry and the teeth, we know that from the pulp of the teeth.
Well, that's DNA,
right? You're going to get DNA, right?
Right, and then you can also get it from the bones, and then in the case of the dismembered bodies, the anthropologists. Well, I'll let them. Let's not steal the show. They'll all get into it.
But we're going to tie Colleen Fitzpatrick, our
DNA guru.
We're going to tie her in to talk about the identification. Jane Doe number 7, right? She was identified, Karen Regatta, through the laboratory in Texas. And that Ortham Labs did an unbelievable job. We're going to ask her questions about that as well. All right. Without further ado, it's his first time on the show. This is my brother. We worked together in the trenches in East New York and Brownsville at PSA 2. Dennis Desmond, my brother from another mother. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that everything's working good for him. First time joining on the StreamYard. Dennis, how are you, brother?
Good. How's everything?
Excellent.
Can you hear me okay?
We hear you perfect. Ed's here, and we're honored to have you on to do a little demonstration for us. First of all, before we get into it, give everybody a little bit of background on who Retired Irish Detective is here.
Well, as Ron said, I worked with him back in PSA 2 in Brooklyn. And from there, I went to Street Crime Unit, Lieutenant Pete. And there, I got promoted to detective and worked in the 6-7 squad. Went to Brooklyn Gang, worked up in Detective Borough Bronx for a bit. Was assigned to a serial rapist in the Bronx back in the early 2000s. And then I retired with a disability in 2003.
All right. Well, you sound like you got into some interesting boroughs. I know you worked out of the old 7-7 Annex, probably, right? With the street crime guys. I was over there too. Listen, you did a great job of showing this burlap, and I'm going to put you full screen if you don't mind. And I appreciate, this is for the audience. This is for the benefit of the audience. Just give a little bit of background, because I see you're a hunter. I see some trophies on the wall in the background. I also see
just a few.
I also see a target back there that it's very familiar, Ed.
Oh yeah, the range target.
Yeah, Ed usually shoots the whole center of it out, so they can't even count his rounds. But yeah, you walk us through. I got your full screen.
All right.
Show the audience.
All right. Well, I'll give you background. I've been hunting since the age of 15. I've hunted all kinds of animal in Canada. I've duck hunted, geese hunted, and this is your camo burlap. You can get it in Walmart, any hunting store, outdoor store. It's a very thin material. It's made out of polyester. As you can see, it's fraying. This piece here I've had for about 16 to 18 years. So it doesn't really break down that much. It's got like an oil base on it. It's water resistant or repellent. It won't keep you dry. It's just there to hide you in the woods. It's used in duck hunting. If you're on a boat, they'll build a aluminum frame on a boat and attach this to get some cover as the birds are flying over. But once this gets wet, it weighs down. So it'll start sagging and it will start pulling. But as far as the Gilgo case, I could see this being used to wrap the bodies up and carry them. It's strong enough where it will hold the weight.
Can you hold it up full screen so everybody could see? Okay. So you can almost
just
see
disappeared.
Yeah, but you could see a little bit through it. I could see your cap through it.
Yeah, you can. It's just to break up the body silhouette when you're hunting. That's all it's for. You know, I mean, in the weather, I've had these in New York, out in the woods, 8 to 12 years, and it'll remain the same.
Wow. I think it's really great for the audience to see that. And you have anything to add to that? But I mean, most people you just hear this. You know, the bodies were wrapped in burlap. But I'm going to put you full screen again. Just to
Sure.
show everybody. There's a lot of people in the audience that are in the chat that are fascinated with that.
Trying to show. I mean, it's very thin. Yeah, it's framed, but it's like woven together.
Right.
I mean, Ed, you're the expert. I don't know if it would be a swab or MVAC on this type of material.
You could do either, but I would go with the MVAC.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think this would hold a lot of evidence or DNA in it.
And hairs and
It's kind
fibers.
of loose. Yes.
Yeah, your hairs and fibers from your clothing and your hair will get trapped in there, and you'll take some of that burlap with you as well, because especially on those frayed ends, you know, you're going to get pieces of those fibers that are going to dislodge, and you're going to take that with you.
Yeah, I mean,
You can
It's
see
like
it's
a rough-
aged. It's old.
yeah, it's
Right.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know he used camouflage. Was that stated camouflage? It could just have been regular burlap. That happens to be camouflage.
No, well, they specifically said
They did?
duck hunting.
Okay, yeah, then it's going to be that. Yeah. So again, this is a good depiction of what the remains of the Gilgo 4 were wrapped in. And there it is. Dennis is kind enough to hold that up for us from down in Florida at an undisclosed location, right?
yeah,
But,
sure.
yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, this is something that maybe was his idea of, hey, anybody will stumble across this, and maybe it'll just like blend in with the foliage there. You know? So
Well, not only that, if he's taking him out of his truck at night, you know, somebody might think that he's actually going to hunt.
right.
It's camouflage. It's going to cover up the body. He's going to be able to pick it up and carry the body, and then this will blend in with the reeds and the grass, the sand and the dirt. It's going to make it a little bit difficult for someone to walk by and just see a body laying there.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to the chat real quick and see what anybody's saying. Hashtag Ed, hashtag Dennis, hashtag DutyRon. Aussie J is here in the house. Thank you for being here. Cherry Pie for me says, wow, look at that. Any questions? Anything you see, Ed?
Well, Jennifer Nobles writes, Ed, does the burlap hold the blood in better from seepage? Now, again, this is a specific synthetic material that is being used, and it has I'm not sure if it's polyester or Dacron. I'm not sure what the makeup of that particular burlap is, but a lot of them have water repellent on them, but they allow the water to go through and over time absorb into it. As Dennis says, when it gets wet, it becomes heavy. Okay, so it is absorbing the water into it. So anything that's absorbent or anything that is like that will absorb blood as well. It'll absorb most liquids. But if it is in fact that particular burlap that he has soaked in some type of petroleum product, because I believe, Dennis, you said it smelled like oil or something like that.
It's more like a kerosene smell.
Kerosene?
If you bought it
Yeah.
brand new. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that might be a part of, the treatment for this material could help with insects and keeping insects and other things away from you and putting your smell down so that your animals can't, the animals like deer and so forth can't pick up your scent,
Right.
Something like that.
Yes and no, because the kerosene smell is going to scare the animals away. So it kind of
does.
defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
But like if I'm hunting white-tailed deer or up in Canada, sometimes I'll lay this across my legs if I'm sitting up against a tree. So my lower part of my body blends in with the ground. I mean, that's really the only use for this thing is to break up the silhouette of your body.
Right. So
But, I
you
mean,
can
as
use
far
that
as,
as a wrap, as opposed to like, you know, getting yourself in a full ghillie suit.
yeah. I mean, it's just it's to break up that pattern. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not going to keep you dry. It's not going to keep you warm.
Right. I would
You
say
know,
that
like,
the answer to this question is absolutely no. That material, Ed, and you know, this is your area of expertise, but I would say no, right?
No.
Yeah.
it's too. I mean, we're trying to show the spacing on it. I mean, anything's going to seep through. It's going to drip through.
Can you put it up closer, Dennis? A little bit closer to that camera? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's not a tight weave.
no.
No, I mean, you can get a pen through there without a problem. So, I mean, any liquid's going to seep through. It might get caught in the fiber, like you said, Ed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a better chance of like hair particles or other types of evidence that's going to get stuck in this.
And that's
I
not
mean,
going
it's a strong material.
That's not going to degrade over time, right? There's not going to be any kind of like degradation when that's left out. That's going to stay out for years.
Your synthetic chemicals are made. Your synthetic fibers are made with petrochemicals, so it doesn't break down like cotton would break down.
Right.
I mean, this piece is over 15 years old. And on one in New York, I had my tree blind was about 12. It fades a little bit, but that's it. It remains
right.
The color and everything on it.
The good thing about it is that it's not a natural fiber, because natural fibers have their own DNA. All right. And that could be a problem when, you know, a victim's DNA gets mixed in with a natural fiber. And so that's why we don't use natural fibers in a lot of the biological evidence collections, especially when we're talking about things like anthrax or toxins or like ricin or things like that.
Hey, I saw my good friend Tori Hartman in the chat. If she's still here, Tori, I love and miss you. I hope we can catch up soon. Well, at one point she was on YouTube on a regular basis doing true crime, and she's been off the grid for a little while. So it was just I was just so happy to see her name pop up in the chat. So yeah, here she is, Tori Hartman. She's got a fantastic channel where she gives her take on true crime, and she's really good people. So I'm glad you're here, and it's great to see you.
Hey, Dennis, if I
Yes.
might, is you've obviously smelt decomp in your day. You know, we all have, and once you smell it, it's with you for life. So it's like a bad nightmare that keeps reoccurring, and just the thought of it can bring back the smell. Anyhow, do you think that burlap, because of that smell that's emanating from it, could mask decomp to some degree?
It's not that strong. Once it's out in the air, that smell kind of fades away. Now, the one thing I can say is when I've harvested an animal and I've gotten blood on this, that area will turn black. And the stain doesn't go away.
Interesting. I wonder why that is. I'd like to do some tests on that. Amanda, that was for you. Amanda Panda, that was your question. So I hope that helps.
So Curious Kiwi's asking him what's happened to Melanie. She had COVID. So she was down and out all week, and Melanie still is fighting COVID, but she's going to be live at 10:45 tonight. So after this live stream, she should be going live tonight. At least that was according to her, and that was her plan. Yeah, that's the story of Melanie Little. She had COVID. She doesn't know where she got it from, but obviously she got it from somebody. Her kids came back from summer camp, and I blamed her kids. But she wanted to kind of keep it quiet. She didn't tell me to tell anybody, but tonight she said, I'm kind of back. It's like her first good day of feeling good.
Hey, since you brought up COVID, you mind if I just say something there?
No, of course.
Folks, do you realize how your public health department knows what strain of COVID is in your neighborhoods? Anybody want to give an answer? Shout it out in the chat.
Whoever gets it right wins a prize. I'm not going to tell you what the prize is, but you're going to win something.
It's going to be a piece of burlap.
You can't, Dennis. You can't. You can't get in on it. Let's see if anybody.
Tori Hartman got it.
Tori wins a prize. Holy cannoli!
Go back. Let's see. Let me see the answer. Go back.
Holy shiitake mushrooms. Where is she? Tori Hartman. Sewerage. She said.
Let's see if she was the first one. I think she was. Let me go back. I thought she said toilet something. Something funny she wrote. Yeah, it's in the toilets.
Yeah, but
yes. Linda Glass got it first. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. Linda Glass.
All right. Well, I'm going to give two prizes. Both Linda and Tori gets a prize. We're going to send a piece of DutyRon and Ed's merch.
That's right.
You could take your choice of any, either glass. We have a bunch of glass pints. We have coffee mugs that say no Jagaloons. We got coffee mugs that say in Ed we trust. So Tori and Linda, well, Tori, you know how to get a hold of me, but Linda, send me a message on DutyRon.com. I just need your home address so we can send you a piece of merch. So you two won the prize.
So just imagine when you flush that toilet,
the poops.
Public health is thanking you. All right. And I shit you not.
I wonder who's got that job.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, Ed. Let me get this in here.
Oh, hell no.
So a lot of people are saying I'm on septic in my county. I'm safe.
Nobody's testing your water.
There you go. We got another five minutes or so. Ed, do we want to get bold and ask the audience, because they're kind of chicken, the audience, to see if one person or two people want to come up and ask a question as it pertains to the Burlap and Rex Heuermann, anything that has involved it with the Long Island serial killer / Gilgo. Let me share it in the chat. What do you think, Ed? First, I like to get Ed's opinion. What do you want?
Go ahead. Go for it. Go for it.
Right. Let's do it. Let's invite. I know that maybe there might be one brave man or woman out there. So here it is. There's the link. Hop on if you're brave enough. I saw Oblivious Benson in there. If she comes on, we'll have to go live for another 3 hours because she loves to talk. Love you, Oblivious. Let me highlight that so it doesn't go away. Hold on. So keep your hashtags to hashtag Ed, hashtag Dennis, hashtag DutyRon. And if anybody's brave enough to come on up, let's hit Ed with some forensic questions, or hit Dennis with some burlap questions. He's got the. Can you put that up again so the folks can see? So this is the type of burlap that Rex Heuermann's alleged to have wrapped his victims in. He's going full screen with it. Yeah,
that's it. You can't see me.
That's it.
So, whoa, that's the bat phone.
It's not me.
So Oblivious is saying, I want to see their questions. Take the link and come up and ask the questions. I want one person. Can one person become brave enough to come up and ask a question? Tori Hartman's asking for all of us. Mm-hmm. Can they trace burlap purchases? That's a good question.
Well, if it was on a credit card.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. If it was on a credit card, you could probably track that down, and it's going to be pretty obviously because there's only a few. I guess you can get it online, all right, but you can get it at hunting stores and you can get it like Dick's Sporting Goods, anybody that sells hunting gear and outdoor gear and stuff like that. You can get it there. Walmart does it sell? Yeah, Walmart sells too, yes. But we don't have them in New York City. Only in Long Island and out of boroughs.
I got them.
Yeah, down in Florida. Yeah,
actually upstate New York.
Yeah.
El Rose says, can the type of burlap he used be traced to where it was made or where it was purchased, where it was made?
Maybe if the manufacturer's stickers or sewn in label is still there.
Yeah. Dennis, what kind of dog is that? Everyone's going nuts about the dog.
That's Trooper. He's a Shepherd Lab. Troop. Of course, it gets too close, you can't see him.
He's an old timer.
Senior citizen.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's like
And
Oscar.
then you got Brooklyn somewhere. I'm surprised she's not running in.
Brooklyn North.
She is exactly. She's a pit bull and Dalmatian.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
You gotta step
Here's
back
more
here.
questions for Ed Wallace. Ed, hashtag Ed from Christina. Do you think it's one criminal or more?
Well, initially, I was thinking it was just one, but then some Suffolk County ex-police chief, got in the news again, and so
Don't get me started.
he resurfaced, and so I don't know now. Let's see how this plays out.
Don't get me started on that, Ed.
I'm just going to sit here and smile.
Yeah, I've had about 4 days of the rabbit hole of James Burke. Oy vey, as they say.
I didn't mention his name. You did.
Yeah, but we all know who you were alluding to. Come on, Wallace.
Yeah.
So I think this was an informative. Like I said, we got a bunch of chickens in the chat. I love you guys. I'm not teasing or anything like that, but I always like to give an opportunity because the live interactive audience is what we love, and it's not often where we can have like a live stream like this where we can open up the chat, because when we have a bunch of guests on, like the example next Friday night, I won't be able to do this. So that's why I thought it was nice to give an opportunity for people to come on up and ask those questions or ask any of the tough questions in person with us and be a guest on the stream. But it is what it is. Yeah, Joey Brooklyn's trying to taunt Tori Hartman. Tori, come on. Okay, Ed.
Is there a connection to Gilgo murders in Plum Island? Plum Island, the National Animal Bio Research Facility,
Greetings from Iceland.
in the middle of the Long Island Sound there. I don't think so. I would say there was probably more of a connection with Plum Island and Lyme disease.
Yeah. How about this?
Oh, hell no.
I don't think so. But thank you, Lena, for that. Any question is a good question. So,
Greetings from Iceland.
Yeah.
All right.
Welcome from Iceland.
Well, Iceland is actually green, and Greenland is actually ice.
Yeah. D Banks, just go on to your search bar and put in Tori Hartman, and her channel will come right up. I'll link it in the description just in case anybody's interested. Here's one for Dennis from PB and J. At Dennis, how do you store your burlap for reuse?
I have about 15 bins just for hunting alone. And this is usually kept in a bin. But if I have a tree blind or a tree stand that I'm using, it will stay out in the woods, and I'll leave it out there until I'm done using that stand.
So that's it. It's not really complicated.
No, it doesn't break down. It's, for $15 to $20, you can use it for 20 years.
Right.
Plus.
Right. Hey, guys and girls, if you're not yet subscribed to Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, me and Ed are asking you guys to please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. There's also links. And Ed, I don't think I told you much about this. I think we just touched on it a little bit in conversation, but we started this Buy Ed Wallace and DutyRon a Coffee campaign. Dawn Marie and Donna Marie asked me, a whole bunch of people asked me about a year ago to start this, and I just forgot about it. And a couple of days ago, I started it up, and people are sending cups of coffee for us. And we appreciate all kinds of support, and that's a fun way to engage and support us. I have it linked down in the description. You guys can buy Ed and I a cup of coffee, and every time you guys do that, we give you a shout out on Twitter, and also we answer you in the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee app. So thank you for that. I couldn't believe how many people. Like one day I started it, and there was like 30 people on there buying cups of coffee for us. So Ed, we got to start drinking coffee.
Well, wouldn't it be great though if they can just tap a line and give me an IV straight full of coffee, and just sit there and not have to drink it?
That would
be. Throw some Baileys in there though.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah,
it's Irish coffee.
Well, again, I want to thank everyone who's newly subscribed. I think over the last 30 days, we have over 10,000 new subscribers on Crime Time with DutyRon. So thank you to everyone who's newly subscribed. We also passed the 20 million view mark. So you guys have watched our show over 20 million times. So I want to say thank you to everyone who replays us, who leaves comments. Ed and I love the commenters in the comment section after the live is over. It's a way to engage with us and continue the conversation after the live is over. Ed's always rocking the comment section. Ed's a badass when it comes to that. So yeah, you can engage with us in the comment section. You can watch the replays, and there's so many ways to support this great community. Ed, for the new people that might not know about you, can you give a brief overview of what you've done in the police department, just like Dennis did? But I know yours is pretty extensive.
I did 20 years and I got out. Is that good enough?
No.
No. Okay. So
CSI explains it all.
yeah, I started my career in the Flatbush section of Brooklyn after the police academy. Spent 4 years in the Prospect Park, Flatbush area, the 7-0 precinct, where I was a foot cop, RMP sector, anti-crime, training officer. And then I went back to school at night. And after I graduated, I got transferred to the crime scene unit. Went to the crime scene, spent 15 years there, where I was promoted 3 times to first grade detective. And then in my last year on the job, I was transferred to the commissioner of counterterrorism. And I worked there for the last couple of months on the job. I told them I was retiring in April of 2004. They took me in October of 2003. And they said, oh, we're going to make your life so great here. You're never going to retire. We're going to give you a take-home car. We're going to give you all this overtime. Well, they gave me a take-home car. They gave me all this overtime. And April came around. I said, here's your keys. Thanks. And out the door I went.
Can you continue that? Now I'm asking you to expand, because then you started working at the new chief medical examiner.
No. Oh, I had a plan. All right. I had a plan. I have an extensive curriculum vitae. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of that. It's 26 pages. But I retired in April of 2004. Opened up my own forensic consulting company. I took contracts with Homeland Security, and I went back to work immediately after I retired for training the New York City Police Department, 17,000 patrol officers at the time, in chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear material training and protection at the MTA training facility right next to Spumoni Gardens in Brooklyn. And I did that on the 4 to 12s. And I did that from 2004 to late 2008. Then all along, I was teaching for Louisiana State University as well, from the time I retired to this very day. And then I worked with Barbara Butcher at the New York City Office of Chief Medical Examiner's Office, where we won grants from the Department of Justice, National Institute of Justice, to train the nation's death investigators. So I was the director of forensic training at the New York City Medical Examiner under this grant, and then I won the next 2 subsequent grants that kept the training going. And then the grants washed up in 2014. I was finished with the medical examiner's office, and then I started working for the State Department and the Defense Department, as well as Louisiana State University, traveling the world, doing counterterrorism forensics.
Whew. Damn. That's
And in between all of that, I wrote 4 textbooks.
And wait, there's more. If you buy
For $19.99,
you buy these textbooks for $19.99, we'll include and
a piece of Ron Licardi's hair.
There you go. Bingo. Yahtzee. From hold on. There we go. Yeah, Ed, Dennis, I want to thank you guys for taking out the time and hanging out here with us. Ed, you're just such a great addition to Crime Time with DutyRon. I'm so happy that our good friend, here he is, Timmy Acosta, God we trust, all else we polygraph. I'm so glad that he suggested that I get in touch with you, because that was one of the best things that he's ever done for my YouTube channel. So Timmy. So thank you for being a great co-host. What the hell's happening over there? Do you have burlap on the floor? What's happening?
It's Dennis squeaked the chair.
Ed is the man. Ed is the man. Guys, I want to just say thank you for everyone for tuning in here for Friday Night Forensics. We had an opportunity for folks to come up and join us, but everybody chickened out. Hold on, I don't have a buck, but I do have that. Appreciate you guys being here, and we will catch you on the next one. Hey, tomorrow for members only, I'm going to be live with my family, upstate New York. My sister, my goddaughter, my sister's kid, Julia. We had a live stream when she was pregnant on members only, and she had the baby, and we're gonna be showing the baby off tomorrow. So I'm going to be doing a members only from upstate New York. So for those of you who are members, look for it at about 2-3 o'clock Eastern time, and that's going to be a members only because at the request of my niece and my sister, she doesn't want it to be out there in the public. So if you guys are members, you'll get to see the little baby. She's a beautiful bundle of joy, and it's going to be a fun stream. Ed, I know you got a couple of things to say.
All right, folks. I want you to stay safe, please. Stay prepared and watch your six.
Amen. And as I always like to end these things, we want to express the importance to support the victims' families. In all of these cases, we want to support all of the folks who are left behind that are struggling. These cases are tough to talk about. There's a lot of doom and gloom. And if you get an opportunity just to say something nice to the surviving family members of some of these cases, you see them on social media, be kind to them. Don't be mean. Don't go at them. You know, some of the people who do things like that are in that category of just as bad as some of these perpetrators. So do yourselves a favor. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all, but support these families that are left behind. So good night from New York City and Florida. Dennis, you're the man, brother. Thanks for being here. Everyone go and subscribe to Dennis's channel. I'll link it in the description here. And thank you. Thank you for everybody for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Good night.
Be safe all.